It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. And that's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
With Ease US makes studio quality voiceovers for your videos online in over 149 languages and dialects. Never been easier to create professional grade videos and voiceovers. Try it today at easeus.com. That's EASEUS.com. Ease US.
Hi, I'm Mitch, the co-founder of Cake, a sexual health and wellness company designed for today and designed for you. Yes, you. The entire product line can be found at hellocake.com, and it's also available in every Walmart near you.
Send money abroad in just a few steps with Remitly. Sign up with your email, enter an amount, choose how your loved ones receive the money, enter your recipient's information, select a payment method, hit send, and relax. Download the Remitly app today.
Tervis is all about staying hydrated. Each product is built to last and comes in endless designs to match your personality. Stay refreshed and express yourself with Tervis. Visit tervis.com today and find your perfect tumbler.
Looking for tickets to the hottest shows, games, and events? Ticket Liquidator is your one-stop shop for great prices, no hassles, and guaranteed tickets. Whether it's sports, theater, or concert, for the best seats at the biggest events, start with Ticket Liquidator today at ticketliquidator.com. Ticket Liquidator. The U-Like Air 3, launched in 2023, ushers in a new era of sapphire ice cooling technology, offering nearly painless hair reduction in just 3 weeks. That's ULIKE.com. U-Like.
Well, here we are, the Pete Sousa Show. Once again, hey, Scotty, could you do me a favor? Can you zoom out on the camera? Can we zoom all the way out? I was noticing that yesterday. Look, I know you get upset, but I looked all cramped yesterday. I'm a big guy. Let's give it there we go. Yeah, let's come on. And plus, you can see the Eagles helmet and stuff. Scotty gives a thumbs down. The Pete Sousa Show. We're back today, guys. Thanks for joining us. We're presented by Slovacics. There's so much going on. Thank you to Crawford Austin Properties, of course, Daniel Stark Injury Lawyers, First National Bank of Central Texas. Thank you to Gary Danielson from CBS Sports, going to be joining us in about 20 minutes. That's a total coup for us to get a guy like that on a program like this, but we will stay grateful, dialed in, and I've got a lot to check in with him about. We're going to start the show. First of all, I'm so offended. So I got really good friends of mine who I grew up with, who seriously, some of them have forgotten more about football than I have. I know that could be dangerous to think because I'm such a nerd, but it's true. But I'm on a text chain with like 3 of my best friends in the world. And, now I have worlds colliding because of BYU and Penn State and the Kalani Sitake situation. Remember, I'm raised in southeastern Pennsylvania. Penn State outside of Temple was like the only game in town. So we were all nut jobs about Penn State. Anyways, my friend Murph, who has been on here, he's our golf analyst for now. He might be on the outs. So Murph's, I'm on a text thread, and he starts asking other guys on the thread, hey, what do you guys think about Kalani Sitake? Is he going to leave BYU? I'm like, bro, why would you go anywhere else but right here for that? And this is where you start to think it's like your best friends in the world. They're kind of like your family. They're just never going to give you any respect. And that's just kind of how it is. But here I am, knee deep, right, in text messages and documents I printed out all about this Kalani Sitake situation that I'm about to break down for you right now. So buckle up, all right, BYU fans and Big 12 fans and the 3 assholes I was just on a text chain with. Okay, so this is wild because there's a couple things at play here too. One, I think when you look at this situation with Kalani Sitake, it's almost like this is how you do it, right? Kalani Sitake is, let's say his moral compass is a little stronger than Lane Kiffin's, and he's not so much all about himself, right? That's a reflection in the fact that he was raised and remains a card-carrying member of the Church of Latter-day Saints. It's just a different way of life, right? It's not necessarily a self-absorbed deal. Now, this whole situation, yesterday afternoon, it really starts to percolate. Or I should say Sunday night, right? And then yesterday afternoon, I'm talking to, I'm texting with my man, Todd McShay, who we've had on this show, right? And McShay's basically like, hey, you need, or the Penn State situation is a mess. And he was basically saying like, and he's inferred that on his own show, but he was saying how their AD craft, and I always joke around, right? Like when we start talking about ADs, like it seems like we know a lot. Like yesterday when I'm like, oh, Keith Carter at Ole Miss. Like, I don't know these dudes. I know of them. And obviously Brian Santiago is another figure because he's involved BYU's AD. But the situation at Penn State is messy because their athletic director, Pat Kraft, has really kind of found himself at a crossroads, right? In like a standoff with Jimmy Sexton, who is like the Scott Boras of college sports right now, college football, really in particular. Let's put it at college football. Or like a Lee Steinberg back in the day. He represents, last year, there was a time when Jimmy Sexton represented 15 of the 16 coaches in the SEC. So Pat Kraft gets sideways with Jimmy Sexton when he fires James Franklin, 4 or 5 games into the season. Whether you like that firing, it doesn't really matter. That's what went down. And he got sideways, Pat Kraft did with Jimmy Sexton. So that is why Chesney, who took the job at UCLA, he's a Jimmy Sexton guy. There are rumors and some innuendo, like the reason that job and that situation never really got too far down the line is because Jimmy Sexton wouldn't allow it to. There was also a lot of stuff where you would hear about Penn State being interested in certain clients or certain coaching candidates that were Jimmy Sexton clients. And then all of a sudden you would hear about that coach renegotiating at his school, right? Well, Kalani Sitake is not represented by Jimmy Sexton, right? And he's like a real outside of the box candidate. If you think about Penn State, Kalani Sitake is a lifetime, BYU guy, right? Played for Lavelle Edwards. And we can get into the Lavelle Edwards connection coming up here shortly, but that came into play yesterday afternoon. Pat Kraft gets on a plane and goes out to Provo, Sunday into Monday. Kalani Sitake is blown away by the presentation. And from what I heard from folks out in Salt Lake City yesterday, people who I really trust, that like it was basically a done deal. Kalani Sitake scheduled a meeting with his team, was going to tell them he took the job. And then, as my buddy Kevin is calling it on our text thread, Crumblegate begins, right? The CEO of Crumble Cookies actually tweets and was like, some people are not replaceable. It was like a bat signal, right? And we got Drake Toll coming up later on from Locked On Big 12, who can break down Cookiegate for us because it's pretty wild. But apparently, there's like an 11th hour meeting with Lavelle Edwards' widow, right? Between Kalani Sitake and her. Everyone around the church is rallying. Everyone around the football program is rallying. It really becomes a situation, and we're seeing this more and more in college sports, where it rises above the level of AD Brian Santiago. And now you've got these heavy hitters like our guy from Crumble Cookies getting involved. And it could be Ryan, I'm forgetting his last name, the guy who owns the Utah Jazz, who has put so much money into BYU's basketball experience through Kevin Young. And you see the AJ DeBonsa and the Rob Wright payouts. Like, there's a lot of money in the orbit there over at the Church of Latter-day Saints. And there's a lot of really good people there, right? And they got involved because I think, one, they understand how special Kalani Sitake is. And two, they realized how serious he was. This is not the kind of guy, and this is, again, based on reporting by other people. Like, I'm not like in here like Woodward and Bernstein, right, out there pounding the pavement. But I talked to the people who are. And I talked to one of them yesterday, and the thought process was, hey, BYU realized, obviously, and almost too late, that this was a very real situation. Like, Kalani Sitake is not the kind of guy who is going to entertain a job offer to leverage his current position. Now, ultimately, that ends up happening here, right? But truly, that's not who this guy is. Penn State came knocking, and I can tell you, as a guy from southeastern Pennsylvania, that is a powerful knock at the door. And you've got to listen if you're Kalani Sitake. And on the back end of that, you are now getting set to play in the biggest game your university has ever played in 40-some years, since the 1984 Holiday Bowl, talking about BYU. So as you prepare for this, all of a sudden, you've got this crashing into your orbit, a possible opportunity at another university. And by the way, this is fluid. Like, what do I know? I'm just reporting to you what I've heard from everyone else and stuff that I've read. But like, I was told it was fluid, but it looks now like Kalani Sitake is going to stay. But back to what I was saying about the Big 12 championship game, possibly the biggest game in 40-some years for BYU. When you look at this game, right, you have to take into consideration that BYU is playing for a playoff spot with a record of 11-1. And if they don't win this game with 2 losses in a Power 4 conference, they may not get into the college football playoff. Now, if you're Kalani Sitake, you got to be thinking, well, that kind of blows, right? Like, and look, I bleed Big 12, right? But the fact of the matter is that is alluring for someone of Kalani Sitake's ilk that may be sort of handcuffed by the situation he's in and where he's coaching. Now, you win this game, and the conference is going to have to get 2 bids because you can't. Texas Tech is just, they are on fire. And that's one thing that actually I think we'll see Kalani Sitake, or excuse me, Joey McGuire coach against, right? We talked a little bit about this yesterday. Scotty brought it up that their team, they are so hot and they are rolling right now that you have to make sure, you don't have the born on third base, thought you hit a triple type mentality if you're Texas Tech, right? But BYU is hungry. They're dangerous. This is a neutral site. So there's a real opportunity for them to play in the college football playoff if they can get a win here. And I believe they can get in if they can lose by less than a touchdown. I really do. But the fit overall for Sitake going to Penn State is a clumsy one at best, in my opinion. Again, it's a different day and age now, and it's a little more transactional. But as far as for somebody who grew up in that area, I do have a vibe on the type of players that Kalani Sitake would be recruiting. We're talking like Philly, like Allentown, like going on to Western PA. You get into DC, some of the cities around there, but like it's not the type of player where a Tongan, someone of Tongan descent is just going to parachute into their living room with this background of the Church of Latter-day Saints and is going to like fit right in and connect with these people. Now, maybe Kalani Sitake would do that, right? But this would be a very out of character hire for Penn State. Scotty, you got something to say? Okay. Scotty's he's ready over there, I feel like. All right. Would be an out of character hire. Now, just a couple other things I had written down here. Kalani Sitake does not have like a Jimmy Sexton level agent. And that's one of the reasons why Penn State targeted him, right? Not that they could take advantage of him, but it was a situation where it was a fertile opportunity, right, for a Penn State to get a coach like Kalani Sitake. I'm so surprised that Penn State is having to reach this far for a hire that seems so out of character for this school. Again, you're talking about you're recruiting a lot of Catholics, public school kids, blue collar kids, just not the type of guy that has been the perfect fit at BYU. By the way, one of the reasons that Kalani Sitake is such a great coach, right, is because he's so aligned with what they're doing at BYU. If he went to Penn State, he would lose that, and Penn State would lose too, because they're going to hire a coach in Kalani Sitake who succeeds because of that alignment. And that is the special sauce for BYU. We go back, right? I think they're 23-2 or 23-3 over the last 2 years. That's amazing. And yeah, that's Aaron Roderick, right? Their offensive coordinator. That's Jay Hill, their defensive coordinator. That's Kalani Sitake. That's so many of these great players. But when you look at the facilitation of a situation like last year, and we went over it here ad nauseum on this show, but your best player, and this is not like the honor code, right, which saw Jake Retzlaff get sidelined for what was going to be 7 games. That's all the information we had. He was going to be sidelined for 7 games as a result of breaking this honor code and being accused of sexual assault, which, by the way, it turned out he was not guilty of. But the fact is he had premarital sex, which is a no-no in the church. So he was going to be sidelined for 7 games. He says, nah, I can't do this. I'm going to bounce. I go to Tulane. And then all of a sudden, you've got Bear Bachmeier, who has become this wonderkind this year, one of the best freshman quarterbacks of all time, right? Like, we're talking the best freshman season, at least since Jalen Hurts, when he started out at Alabama. And the list goes on, but it's very short. And now Bear Bachmeier's on it. Like, that facilitation comes because of a guy like Kalani Sitake, right? A similar situation like that happens at Penn State. And I don't know that you have the connectivity and the belief from the players into you and you to them to make something like that happen. I just don't know that fit is there for Kalani Sitake at Penn State. And all things being equal, it does look now like he is going to stay at BYU. Again, it's a fluid situation. It could change. Drake Toll will join us later on. And Drake is like, first of all, listen, I'm telling you, listen to Locked On Big 12. Drake is about to make a huge career move, by the way. Huge. Like, if you don't know who Drake is, he's the nudnik that wears the fur coat for the Savannah Bananas, right? A dude from Arkansas that we got to know, I got to know very well in Central Texas, right? He is electric. And I listened to his show this morning after texting with him. And he's got the goods on all this stuff because he's similar to me, but he's better as far as, we don't break the news, but we react to it. And we talk to people who know more than us. So Drake will kind of clear some of this up, but it's very clear that yesterday afternoon, the bat signal was thrown up in Provo, Utah. And with that bat signal being thrown up, Batman or Crumble Man or Cookie Man showed up. And it seems like all this has been alleviated. But it was so close to the point that I'm hearing a meeting was scheduled for the players for Kalani Sitake to tell them, I am leaving and going to Penn State. And that meeting was canceled. And if you saw yesterday afternoon, again, such a different moral compass than our boy Lane Kiffin, who we love and is probably, I think, the most famous coach right now in college sports. You could say like Pitino and Calipari maybe, and maybe Danny Hurley, but like he's up there, dude. And, Sitake was asked about this yesterday during their Big 12 championship availability. And he just like shut it down. He's like, we're talking about the game. And like, he's not a Lane Kiffin in a sense where people respected that. And now you see a couple hours later, the situation was fleshed out. We will find out later in the day what the deal is. But we're recording our Big 12 show, our special for ESPN for the Big 12 championship preview. I would hope by the time we tape that on Thursday that we can say, because we're gonna interview Kalani Sitake and we're gonna interview Joey McGuire, and I would like to ask him, hey, like, what's your thinking on this? And I would hope that it's as easy as we give him the opportunity to just shut it down. He'll probably have talked to people like Pete Thamel before Pete Sousa gets to him, but you get the idea. It'd be nice to see him shut this down before they play the biggest game in the history of that school since Robbie Bosco was under center. All right, we're going to break now. We got Gary Danielson coming back. Scotty keeping us honest on the time. But the Pete Sousa Show rolls on. We're so pumped to be with you today. Thanks for joining us. We got tomorrow, we have more folks coming on to preview the Big 12 championship between Tech and BYU. And then Thursday, we got Chad Brown, Colorado guy, and he's calling the Big Ten championship and as an analyst for Compass Media. And then Friday, I think we're working on Robbie Bosco, thanks to Chris Visser. But we're going to step aside. We'll come back with Gary Danielson next on the Pete Sousa Show.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB, your bank for life, takes pride in being more than a bank. TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
Bubble allows you to make it real and for it to actually work. So I feel like Bubble bridges that gap and being able to give people the opportunity to make their ideas come to life really quickly too. I love that I can sit down and build something the way that I think it should be built and have the control over it.
Bubble turns ideas into fully scalable apps. Try Bubble today.
Hi, I'm Jo from Face Theory. You're going to want to have a specific goal for your skincare routine. What do you want to achieve? Active ingredients are really strong, and if you're using too many at once, your skin can get overwhelmed. Don't overspend on products. Choose products that have scientific research behind them. At Face Theory, if you're not happy with a product, just say so, just give us a shout and we'll give you your money back, no problem.
I know you're gonna love this Kodak Dot Plus printer. You guys just connect it to your smartphone and then you're gonna use the Kodak Photo Print app. It's going to print you a 4x6 photo. I am just in awe. I love how these turned out. Also, the printer comes with a free cartridge of 10 photo sheets. I can assure you, you are going to love this printer as much as my family has. You guys have to check it out for yourself.
Streamline event and appointment booking with Amelia's sleek, modern, and fully customizable booking forms. Tailor the colors, fonts, and design to match your brand and seamlessly integrate with your WordPress website. Whether it's for events or appointments, Amelia makes booking simple, stylish, and perfectly aligned with your business. Enhance your booking experience today at WPAmelia.com. That's WPAMELIA.com. Amelia.
When you learn a language with Babbel, you start a journey that takes you further and further. Anytime and anywhere you wish. It's easy and fun. Broadens your horizons and keeps your brain fit. A journey into new thoughts, new cultures, new adventures. So what are you waiting for? Start your journey with Babbel now. Go to babbel.com or download the app.
BadCreditLoans.com is a pioneering service provider that has carved a reputation in the financial industry for its dedication to helping individuals with bad credit secure loans. By making timely repayments, borrowers can gradually repair their credit history, thereby increasing their chances of securing better loan terms in the future. BadCreditLoans.com serves as a beacon of hope for those with bad credit. Simple, fast, and reliable loan application process. And its commitment to responsible borrowing makes it a trusted partner in the journey towards financial stability.
It is the Pete Sousa Show, waiting on Gary Danielson, Scotty Swingler over there efforting, getting everything squared away as we get set for championship weekend. It's a scary thought, by the way, when you look at, there could be 4 coaches or 4 schools, I should say, and now you enter the situation with BYU. Scotty goes out of the room to call Gary Danielson. So now Scotty's explaining. I mean, Scotty is amazing, right? But like, this is Gary Danielson. You got to like stay on him, you know, like. Gary Danielson doesn't get a link to go on StreamYard for the Pete Sousa Show and like sprint to his computer. Like, oh my God, like, so we have to like, we got to make sure we get these guys there. And Scotty does an amazing job. I come in here and everything is perfectly set up. He's always got our guests ready to go. But sometimes with guys who are maybe a little more high prior profile or a little older or both, you really got to kind of stay on them, right? So we're getting that taken care of right now. But when you, by the way, you look at the college, and this is what I want to talk to Gary about a little bit. When you look at the college football playoff scenarios, and you look at the coaches or the schools who could be in this college football playoff, I mean, North Texas or Tulane, both of their coaches are out of there, but both of them will be coaching, right? Sumrall will be coaching for Tulane if they can make it. And North Texas will be coaching. Chad Morris will be coaching for North Texas, right? If they can make the college football playoff. But both of them will be gone following, this season or said short playoff run. Then you could have the Sitake situation at BYU, which we don't think is going to happen. We definitely will have the Lane Kiffin situation. The Kalen DeBoer situation is heating up. As my boys that I was talking about off the top of this show, there's a possibility now for DeBoer to go to Penn State, which would be like a total shocker. And by the way, I think it would be a great move for everybody involved. That's one of the things that when I tell you, like, I don't know that the Kalani Sitake thing made a ton of sense. Like, that does make a lot of sense to me, right? Like Kalen DeBoer at Penn State, I feel like that's a great fit. The success he had at Washington, and his ability to kind of probe the country and find guys in the portal just as well as recruit them is a huge caveat for your football program if you hire somebody like DeBoer. And a guy like Kalen DeBoer too, when you utilize the portal and you're at Alabama or you're Penn State, you start to understand that you don't have to utilize it that much, because the fact of the matter is, these are blue-collar schools, or should I say blue blood schools, not blue-collar schools, but they're blue blood schools who, when you recruit, guys almost recruit Alabama. Guys almost recruit Penn State. When you get to lower levels of the Big Ten, right, or the SEC, like Lane Kiffin leaving Ole Miss, a lot of folks, and you don't have to dig too deep or reach too far to hear it, like, he was told by Nick Saban and others, like, if you get out of the Ole Miss and get to a marquee school like LSU, you're not going to have to traverse the country and bang the portal like you had to do this past 6 years. You're just not going to have to do it. And I think that's so enticing for a lot of these coaches. And, maybe that's one of the reasons that Sitake was looking so closely and so long and hard at Penn State. But then you have another part of it too, when you think, BYU is specific with, it's why so often you see a guy go from BYU to their biggest rival, Utah, or then back, right? There's not too much of that, oh, is this guy going to leave us? Or, oh, do we have to go to the portal? So that's, again, another one of those unique positions, right, in college football. Now, as we get set, is Gary? Okay, Gary's getting on right now, momentarily. But as we get set to talk with Gary Danielson, I do want to remind you guys exactly who we're dealing with here. Okay, this is Gary's 36th year calling college football, and this year with CBS. Now, Gary, you probably know him. I would say his best. I would say one of the best booths in college football of all time is Vern Lundquist and Gary Danielson. And then you also, have him with Sean McDonough, and just the list goes on. And Gary is with us now. I think he's checking in with us from his home in Bonita Springs. There he is, Gary. What's happening?
I'm doing great. Let me get these glasses off. I don't need them to talk.
Man, it is so great to have you from the cradle of quarterbacks to CBS, now to the Pete Sousa show. Thank you so much.
That's the old Purdue jersey that tried to run the wishbone and didn't do very well at it. So I'm running upward.
And that's unfortunate because they said you were a system quarterback. So that was one system you didn't love?
I don't even know what that means, but all I did every day was not miss a practice, made sure if I got hurt, I tried to stay out there because I figured somebody would take my job if they went out there. So, we did a lot of things in college, but once you got to the NFL, it was, hey, you got to do the best because if the next guy gets in there, he may do better than you. So, but it was all great. 13 years and fought every play, every day, basically.
So, Gary, that's one thing I wanted to ask you about off the top. You have now for me, are in that Chris Collinsworth now universe where you were an elite player, right? Had an excellent career in college and the NFL. No, come on. Go ahead.
Say I'm not embarrassed to say journeyman player. I mean, there are a lot of them in every training camp. You were picking at the draft. Are they going to take anybody to replace you? And you keep fighting. And I was like maybe half the time I was the assumed starter and half the time I was like battling to get playing time. But that's the way the NFL is. So there's nothing embarrassing about that.
No, not at all. And your broadcasting career now has almost people see you now as more of a broadcaster than as a sensational. I'll say it. I thought you were an elite, a guy that plays in the NFL for as long as you did is elite.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I mean, no. So I would, the guys I played against. I lined up against Fouts and Parkington and Staubach and the elites of. And it's kind of funny. He used to always kind of tell this story that we were playing Fouts one time. We were going out to San Diego and they had Jefferson and Winslow and all those guys. And we were good. We had Silver Rush and Billy Sims was our running back. And, we could compete with people. So we're playing Fouts again. He's having one of those years, and I go, guys, it was like, and I said, you guys got to play your ass off today. And they're all looking at me and I go, because they got Fouts and we don't. So you better play this game. So I got him one time. He got me one time. So, but I had a lot of help. So
would you get jealous of a quarterback like that playing for Don Coryell, like in that system with guys like Jefferson and Charlie Joyner and Kellen Winslow? I mean, that was a pretty sick attack for a guy like that. That's a quarterback's dream.
Yeah, that would be nice. I don't think I could have done that, to tell you the truth. That would have probably been a little bit over my skis. I needed to have the team around me be good and pick my spots. I always felt like, my game, when I was with the Lions and the Browns was, 25 throws. I think one year my agent, when I was up for contract, said that I made more third down throws than any quarterback in the league because that's kind of how we played. Jim McMahon was that way. There was a lot of guys that had that type of style. You had to, Bob Greasy was that way. Now Bob was a higher level quarterback than myself, but that sometimes is a lot harder than throwing 35 times a game. You had to pick your spots and you had to be careful with the football, and because the team, punting was not the worst thing to do if you have a good defense and manage the game, basically.
Is there something you picked up from Greasy being with him at Purdue that not only was a thread through your career as a passer in the NFL, but now as a broadcaster as well?
I admired the way Bob played. So Bob was the quarterback. See, 8 years before I was there, and
Okay.
I followed Mike Phipps, and just to show you how different the world was. From when you're from the North, I don't know if people kind of get this, and it's ironic that I'm doing college football. I never went to a college football game. I don't ever remember watching a college football game until I wanted to play college football, except for a Rose Bowl. And then I signed with Purdue. And when I went there as a freshman, we were not eligible. And the first game I attended, the first game I ever saw of a college game was after I signed with Purdue, and Purdue was playing at home Stanford. So it was Mike Phipps against Jim Plunkett, and they both threw for over 400 yards, and I think Purdue won or 42-41, something like that. So I was like, dang, these guys are pretty good football players. So it was kind of cool. So we were more, my dad and I, we were more in the North. You're more a NFL fan. I grew up Lions. We went to Lion games. And in the South, it's more you're connected to Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, LSU. In the North, you're a Bear fan, a Viking fan, a Lion fan, a Giant fan. And I think even to this day, I don't think many of us, maybe you're different. There's not many of us who, are lucky enough to have a good spouse and a good family. You don't get to watch football Saturday and Sunday. You get to watch one of the two. So we were always the Sunday household, not a Saturday household when I was growing up.
But then you matriculate, right, as a broadcaster, and you teaming up with Vern.
Yeah.
When he gets the appointment to the SEC, and he says it so well in his book, like he really didn't even quite understand like how powerful that would be and how much he was going to love it. Was there a moment for you as now, you wrap up your 36 year coming up? Was there a moment for you when you were like, man, as a guy who played in the NFL and in the Big 12 or Big 10, this SEC thing is overwhelming?
Yeah, it's so ironic. I've worked with three great announcers, all Hall of Famers. Nestler and I did 7.5 years together at ESPN and ABC. And then I worked with Musburger for 7 years. And then I came to the SEC and worked with Vern for 11 years, and now back with my original partner, Nestler. And I felt it kind of was easy for me. It's hard to say, but I'm not like bragging, but I never really, like Brent and Vern and Ness, when they look in the mirror, or Al Michaels or Keith Jackson, they see an announcer. That's what they wanted to do. I know was not a great football player, but I still see myself as a player. I mean, I've loved everything I do, and the closest thing to playing is being an announcer at these games. And I mean, I've done consequential games since the first day I did it in 1990 all the way through now. But when I went from ABC to CBS, everybody at ABC and ESPN, they were offering me a contract to stay, "Oh, what are you going there for? That you're going to get lost. Nobody watches these games." And it was 2006. And it just exploded when I got there. That was the Tebow's first year. That's the year they beat Ohio State. And then it was LSU. Then it was Auburn. And then it was, it was just one right after another all the way through Georgia. It's intense. It's intense for a broadcaster when you do those games. The people are very connected to their teams. You're highly criticized no matter what you do in the SEC. If you're the play caller, you're the quarterback, you're the head coach, you're the analyst. They hold everybody to a high standard, and I really love that. It really kept me sharp, and the games were fantastic. And Vern, he's a Hall of Famer. Brent's a Hall of Famer. Ness will be a Hall of Famer. But Vern just blossomed in the SEC, and he became the face of that network. When that thing exploded, it became went from a regional to a national product. They earned it the way they played, but CBS played a big part in that too. That 3:30 game on CBS, everybody kind of gravitated to that.
And you mentioned it. I grew up outside of Philly in the Northeast, and it just transcended regions, right?
Yes,
at that point in time, it was, and it still is like people are pumped for that 3:30 game. How are you different? Because I love you bringing up the beginning, and then as you continue to ascend, how are you different as a broadcaster now than the day you started as an analyst?
I hope I'm not real different. I've always tried to, when I put a game together, it's a lot like playing quarterback. And I read this through Bill Walsh. You prepare all week. It's almost like putting a puzzle together, right? You put the edges together and you put all the spots that fit together. That's what you do all week. You prepare, but the inside, the picture of what you're going to see, Bill Walsh, he talked about it as a play caller. You have to do all the work all week so that when the game comes, you have to trust yourself that you've done the homework, you've done your past experiences, the ups and the downs of your career. You have to bring all the emotion, all the hurts, all the drama, all the consequences. Um, you have to bring that to every game. It's really, really fun. I have to admit, everybody says, oh, the games you're doing this week is not as big as the Alabama, Georgia. Yeah, but to the people who watch that game, if you got Iowa against Wisconsin, that whatever that rating is, they're all in and they care about every word you say. So I don't think I've been all that much different. The world around my job has changed. Everybody has their phones and they can in, instantly critique everybody fairly, unfairly. That's fine. That's up to them. Sometimes it hurts, but only because it kind of takes away from what everybody's doing. But most of the time, it's so fun to watch competition, drama, consequences, great plays, effort, players that you never heard of, you never would have thought making big plays, and so it doesn't seem all that different, but the way TV is now, instead of being, when I went to ESPN in 1990, the well, let me back up. The last production I went was at Disney World, with Greasy and Lynn Swan and Keith Jackson, and there were like 200 people in the room. Okay.
Yeah.
My first production meeting at ESPN, there were only 3 analysts in the room. Myself, Mike Gottfried. I did the primetime game. Mike did the 3:30 game, and our studio host was Lee Corso. There were just 3 of us.
That was like
Okay?
the seminar, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
the
yeah. I
seminar.
go to those seminars now. There's like 1,000 people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's how different it was. That was the seminar back then. 3 of us, basically. So uh, both is fun, both is different. It is highly competitive. There's been rumors about my job many times, and I compete like hell to keep it. Because if you don't do your job well, uh, your bosses are looking at you, and you're not going to get everything perfect. But just like my job as a quarterback, there's a lot of people depending on me. I'm the face of the broadcast. There's 75 other people doing the work to make sure it looks good for the fans to watch the game.
So, and it's such a thoughtful answer, and I love how thoughtful you are when you go on with our buddy Chris Russo. I love listening to you and Mad Dog, and I love how he's always trying to solve the world's problems with you as he thinks out loud, like who's going to get in, who's not going to get in.
I know. Oh, there's so many funny days. One time, because my buddy listens religiously, he loves Mad Dog, and I do too. When I'm in the car, I like to listen to sports talk radio just like everybody else. But this one day, I called my buddy and I said, "All right, this week when Chris comes on, I'm going to disagree with everything he says. No matter what he says, I'm going to say the opposite like that." So I had fun with him too. But he knows a lot. He's very knowledgeable, but we've had some great times on the radio, and it is good. It's very, when you go on with Chris, and there's like the Michigan fiasco with the cheating.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so now he's throwing questions at me. I'm representing CBS. I'm representing the Big Ten. It's tricky how you answer all those things, but you can't be fake. You got to give your opinion. And I think my wife helped me a lot about like this. She's the daughter of a basketball coach, and she said her dad used to say this, and then I took it with my kids when I was raising them. She says, there's a difference of critiquing a play and being critical of players who are in the game. And I've always remembered that. Like, listen, I got coached hard. If you step with the wrong foot, you get coached. If you're supposed to take an outside release, you got to take an outside release. If you're the free safety and you get up there on a running play and they throw a post behind you, the coach gives you a 0 and you're critiqued. But you don't have to be critical. You have to call people, lazy or they didn't, So I think you've got to find that medium where the fans don't want you to just soft pedal everything. You have to be critical, but you have to be critique of them like a teacher. But I think you have to show the fans that you have emotions and a heart for how hard it is to play the games we're doing.
Well, and on that note, let's critique a little bit as far as what we're looking at here with the calendar. We're in Big 12 country. I'm getting ready for what will be BYU's biggest game in 40-some years, right? And yesterday you get the rumors with Kalani Sitake and Penn State, of course, outside of the Big 12, the Lane Kiffin, all of it. If you were to be appointed the commissioner of college football after your 36 year closes up here in a little bit, what is the first change you would make? If that was something forget it. I don't care if you're interested. You have to.
No.
What's the first change you'd make?
I understand. So the problem with college football is it's almost impossible to regulate. Think about it. You just mentioned BYU in the Big 12. The very first game I ever did was Ty Detmer, BYU playing against #1 Miami. He won the Heisman Trophy that day.
That was the opening game of that year.
Opening game. That's right. Okay. That was 1990. That was the very first game. So now BYU's in the Big 12. Now there's a 12-team playoff. So many things change, but everybody's coming at it from a different angle. It's not like the NFL. College football, the best teams get the first pick. The NFL, there's a draft, there's order to it. There's rules. Here, you take advantage of your legacy being Ohio State or your history of being USC or Texas, and you get the better players. So the temptation to use all that to continue to dominate college football is very hard. And let me get off page one more time, I promise, because I don't get to do this.
I love it. I love it. Please.
I'm in a seminar at CBS, and we were asked maybe 6-8 years ago, and we the Neuheisel and I and BJ, we're all asked to pick our top 10 for the coming year. So I put up my top 10 on they had an over projector, and it's like Nebraska, no, it's USC, Ohio State, Alabama, Tennessee, Nebraska, Notre Dame, Michigan. That's my top 10. And everybody goes, Nebraska? How do you have Nebraska? But I go, oh, I'm sorry. That's the top 10 when I graduated from college in 1972. It's the same teams. Now, somebody enters, Virginia Tech makes a run, and now Oregon's in there. But the legacy teams are the legacy teams, and they don't want change. So that's the problem. Commissioner doesn't work. How are you going to get the SEC to cede their power to the Big 12? They've got all the advantages right now. Why would they make something fair, that says, all right, we're gonna make it fair so you guys can compete with us? They're not going to do that. So it's impossible to have a commissioner. Now, they could get together and say this would benefit us all to have a little different calendar. But I can tell you, even the smallest change, the dates of transfer portal, there's just as many coaches that say, no, we like the transfer portal the way it is. We like 2 transfer portals. We want a guy to transfer 4 times, so you get just
why
as many
is that,
people.
Gary? Why is that, though? That doesn't make much sense to guys like you and I.
Oh, okay, but who was it that I just watched the other day? It was the wide receiver, Malik, the Oregon wide receiver. Geez, I could grab his name. Malik Benson, the guy who caught the pass to win the Oregon game. Basically, he had the key pass.
The one you were doing.
Right, the game we just did. This is his 3rd place. The other 2 teams, Alabama and Florida State, really didn't love him. So now in his 3rd place, he's making a name for himself, like you are doing your radio show, or I'm doing that.
Yeah.
Because the coaches have so much power and recruit so many players, the players want to find their path to play professional football. And I don't, Joe Burrow, remember Ohio State didn't think he could play.
Yeah.
So I don't think a commissioner will work in college football. I really don't. More people are watching college football now than they ever did. It doesn't seem like it's as good as it is. And that's one thing Brett Musburger taught me, and I think it's the best advice. Gee, don't fight change. If you're the old man on the porch saying, "Get off my grass," you are not going to survive in this thing. You just have to, win when the rules change, and you have to adapt. College football has adapted. A lot of things are much better than they were before. It's still in the middle of that. I think we've got, maybe not the middle. I hope we're at the 80% mark of change. I frankly don't have any answers for you, but most of everybody involved want it to be better. They want it good for the kids, but I don't know how to fix the Lane Kiffin story. I don't know how to fix that for you. Or the Bo Perbula leaving Penn State when they go into the playoffs.
Yeah.
And I got to tell you, had Bo not left, and Penn State came close to winning that Notre Dame game anyway, if they would have had that change-up quarterback that could have given them another attack, Penn State might have won it last year. So there's a lot of consequences that go on, but it's like, democracy is the worst form of government except for all the others, I guess, is the only way I can put it. That's the way it is.
A couple more for you, Gary. I so
Sure.
appreciate your time. When you talk about, the college football playoff and the Lane Kiffin situation, and you made a great point about, the elites, right? Those marquee schools still being there, just like when you were in college. Do you think that's probably the biggest reason Lane Kiffin left? Because when you're at an LSU, it is different than Ole Miss, right? Your resources, you probably don't have to hit the portal as hard because guys are almost recruiting you. Is that a thought for you? Like maybe that's why?
Yes. Oh, there's no doubt. There was two possibilities here. Okay. And the one is, that Lane did exactly what he did. He looked at it and goes, I'm at Ole Miss. We're in the playoffs. Not quite as much pressure here at Ole Miss, but I could put the team together to compete. The other possibility is, and I hope you can understand this because it's an old analogy. Remember the old Ed Sullivan show where the guy would get out there with the sticks and the dishes and he'd get them all spinning.
Seen the video,
and he'd run back and forth and it was that way with Lane. Lane goes, yeah, I'm winning, but I can't keep all these dishes spinning like this.
Yeah.
It's going to crash. LSU just has more of an advantage. Alabama has more of an advantage. Michigan has more of an advantage.
There's other guys helping you keep the dishes in the air.
Exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
So you can get it. And I think he had an urge to win a national championship. I don't think it was the more money for himself, although your agent is always going to try to set the next mark, because if the agent doesn't get you the most money, then the other agents will pick at his coaches and say, listen, I could have got Lane more and I could get you more. That agent doesn't have it anymore. Jimmy Sexton's lost his fastball. So if he doesn't get the best deal, Mac Brown and Bobby Bowden told me the same thing. And this is the problem with LSU. Mac Brown said, yeah, we have the advantage at Texas. We get first pick. Bobby Bowden said the same thing when he was rolling. We get first pick. We get the guys we want. The problem is you have to, the great ones, the 5 stars and the 4 stars, you have to almost offer them after their sophomore year. If you don't offer these elite players first, they're mad. The next coach says, hey, we're offering you and Texas isn't. And so you got to, and they both said we picked the wrong guys because we had to pick so early. The guys that ended up, coming out as a junior and senior ended up being better, but you can't pull scholarships. You get a bad reputation. So it's not quite as easy as Lane thinks, but there is advantage. There's a reason why Georgia and Alabama and Ohio State are winning all the time.
What do you think is the biggest surprise that lies ahead for us when we get down to this selection Sunday with these 12 teams, a week from Sunday?
If BYU upsets Texas Tech, that'll shake it up. Okay. Because what do you do with Texas Tech? They're 5th now. Are you going to drop them out of the playoffs? and BYU is going to get an automatic berth. So then that means that extra spot has to come from somewhere. Does it come out of the 5 teams for the SEC? Does it come out of a matchup between Notre Dame and Miami? That could be the fallout here, is if that happens with the 12 spots. Now, by the way, I think 12 is not a good number. I never did. I think 16 is the number. I don't think they want buys. I can tell you off the record that coaches have told me they don't even want the bye. All 4 teams lost off the bye last year. They would rather have home games the first week and play the 16th, 15th, 14th, 13th than have a bye. They'd like to
layoff's
get a
too
game
long. That layoff is too long.
It's not like the NFL where you're just laid off for 1 week. It's laid off for 20 some days. So I think 16 would be better. There'd still be arguments, but I personally think that the Big 12 and the ACC would benefit from having 2 automatics and arguing about a third team rather than right now having 1 and arguing about their second team.
What's taken Penn State so long with this coaching search? What do you know what the reason is behind that?
I've heard rumors. One of the rumor is that a prominent agent blocked all of his coaches from interviewing for it. And so the field wasn't quite as big as Penn State was. And I think the other is that they had their eye on a couple of assistants that they were enamored with, and those assistants are with teams that are still currently involved in the playoffs, just like Kalani is at BYU. And that'll be interesting. I mean, that would be a big change, from BYU to Penn State. That, sometimes fit means everything. That would be one to watch. I'd be interested in watching that the next 3 years. Would you not?
Yeah, I would be as a guy, again, from the Philly area, I not to say he couldn't get it done, but there's a little bit of a disconnect in some of the guys he'll be sitting down with.
I actually think I actually think BYU and SMU and Notre Dame have some advantages in the new system. They should have enough money to play the transfer game and the portal game. And, BYU is not a bad place to be coaching at right now. But, the allure of Penn State's not bad.
Last question, 36 years for you. You're wrapping it up now. I mean, first of all, thank you for being on the job and doing just your voice and being piped into my living room for so long has been amazing. Amazing.
Appreciate it.
Truthfully. And I do want to ask you, what has been the thread from a player, ESPN, CBS right now that has been a common thread through the whole journey for you that has allowed you to experience all this great success?
Sure. Honestly, the irony of this is kind of hard to explain. I deeply regret my 4 years at Purdue. We were not. I would love to have a do-over. I really would. We had a really good team. I was not mature enough. I was 17 years old when I went to Purdue. There were some coaching changes. We changed offenses. We went to option offenses. And, I turned down Notre Dame and Michigan and Alabama to play for Purdue. And I wanted to be the next Mike Phipps. And I didn't handle it well as a young adult. I was a much better player. I feel bad about my teammates. I played with 3 first-round draft picks and Dave Butts, Otis Armstrong, Darryl Stingley, 3 second-rounders, Greg Bingham, Gary Rivnak. We were a really good team. If our quarterback, meaning me, would have been a little more committed, we could have gone to the Rose Bowl. We almost went anyway. We had to beat Michigan at Michigan, and we lost 9-7. So that led to me not being drafted. And I knew I was good enough. So I had to take a trail that was unpleasant through Canada, through the World Football League, playing for basically no money. So I was a grinder the rest of my life. And it's the same way I approach this. So, that humbled me and maybe made me what I am now at the same time. And so I don't take anything for granted. I told them when this was my retirement year, I'm going to work just as hard on my last 2 games that, as I did the national championship. I did 2 national championships, 18 SEC championships, Army, Navy, obviously, Texas, Oklahoma, every major rivalry game, 2 Michigan, Ohio State games. I'll work just as hard in the Sun Bowl, which will be my last game. There'll be a lot of opt-outs from that game, but Gary Danielson will not opt out from that game.
Gary, man, amazing, dude. They say don't meet your heroes, but come on, bro. It's all good.
Well,
Thank
I wish
you
it
so
was a
much,
little-
and thank you for imparting such wisdom today, man.
You got it. Appreciate it. Great questions. Great interview. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right, you got it. Gary Danielson, there he goes, a college football legend. And man, what a treat to get a chance to talk with a guy like that. And we kept him a little long, and I hope that was okay with him. But a lot of gratitude just to have that moment with him. Way to go, Chris Visser. In the home office in Orlando, Florida. Not a short drive from Gary in Bonita Springs. Maybe we could get him to do it remote next time. All right, quick break. Then we're back with Drake Toll. We're talking Cookie Gate here. BYU, Drake Toll. I've already said enough about him. You'll experience him firsthand after this break.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at a stop. I thought I was fine, and then once I got home, I realized it's a lot worse than I thought. I ended up having a ruptured disc. You say you're not hurting, and then an hour later, you're saying you're in all this pain. I just felt like most people would think that I was lying. That's when I decided to call Daniel Stark. I owe a lot to Daniel Stark. They really got me what I deserved.
The difference is stark.
I know you're gonna love this Kodak Dot Plus printer. You guys just connect it to your smartphone. I can assure you, you are going to love this printer as much as my family has. You guys have to check it out for yourself.
Streamline event and appointment booking with Amelia's sleek, modern, and fully customizable booking forms. WPAmelia.com. That's WPAMELIA.com. Amelia.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference because my stress level, when we shut down, to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
A journey into new thoughts, new cultures, new adventures. So what are you waiting for? Start your journey with Babbel now. Go to babbel.com or download the app.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports, Pete.
It's not just a glove, it's a 44 Pro. Crafted with dedication, made for performance, and built to last. Get your custom glove today at 44pro.com and experience the 44 Pro difference. That's 44pro.com, 44 Pro. Cleanse your body of accumulated toxins and embark on your wellness journey at your own pace. At Global Healing, we provide premium supplements to help your body heal naturally. Start your healing journey today at globalhealing.com and organichemp.com.
Introducing Muck-Off's classic pink bike cleaner, powered by revolutionary nanotechnology that breaks down dirt and grime on a microscopic level while protecting your bike's delicate finish. us.muc-off.com.
At 4U Health, we believe wellness and lab testing should be accessible, inclusive, and yes, fun. With our tech-powered at-home lab test, you save time and money while feeling your best. 4U Health. Visit 4uhealth.com today.
Stability.
Here he is. Let's bring him up. Right, the great Drake Toll is waiting. Oh, there he is. There he is. Scotty, did we just get crooked for a second? Did I? Okay, no, I know you haven't. Whatever, Drake. We're sideways now that we got you here. I mean, first of all, we welcome Drake Toll in from Locked On Big 12. A phenomenal job, as always, covering the conference and a real strong dose of breaking news reporting on this morning's edition of Locked On 12. Can you catch us up to speed on Cookiegate, the Cookie Monster becoming involved to make sure the Kalani Sitake stays in Provo? Let me ask you that first. Like, what have you known or what have you gleaned new this morning? Anything new?
They call me the Marty Smith of the Big 12, and they've called me that for a long time. And I think that we have culminated that with the Kalani Sitake coaching carousel news that broke yesterday. And look, Gary Danielson's great, obviously a legend of the game, but I haven't seen him wear a fur coat on the air, so I'm just spitballing here, letting you know that I'm excited to be here always on your show, and that I'm excited to admit that Kalani Sitake was staying at Penn State, and then he left Penn State for BYU, and then he was going back to Penn State, and then he was going back to BYU. This saga is one that should not be swept under the rug when it comes to the great 6 hours of a coaching search that needs its own E60. Liam Blutman was the first one on this, and this is a producer from Barstool. And typically, if there are people in the media industry that we don't see as, reputable sources for breaking information, it's like Pablo Torres 1-1 way up there. And the Barstool producer, you're like, okay, but this dude, I'm talking, he is the connection. Like, he might as well be the AD at Penn State. And he is saying that at this moment, it would be a miracle if Kalani Sitake does not go to Penn State. So, of course, I get on the phone. I start working the phones here. And every person I talk to is like, dog, this is it. Like, this is the one. There are enough friction points at BYU right now for Sitake, from staff pay to NIL to even somewhat his own salary, just a fair salary for himself when he's watching Lane Kiffin, who has less wins the last 2 years, yet, $13 million per year at LSU, saying, I want a cut of that, or at least something similar. And so I'm being told that BYU couldn't match the offer in full, but they didn't need to. It's the dream school for Kalani, and this was not just a leverage game for him. He legitimately wants his staff to succeed, his players to succeed. Knowing how it is in college football, I think if Sitake took the job at Penn State, BYU would have lost double-digit guys to Happy Valley. And not because he would try to poach them, but more so Penn State saying, hey, we can give you more NIL, and Sitake saying, make a business decision. This is a life decision for these kids. Instead, middle of the night, we go from barring a miracle to the powers that be in the conglomerate of BYU fandom and alumni who own businesses and are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and have decided that Kalani Sitake is a figure they cannot go without. They all gather in a room where it happens, and when they come out, he's the head coach again. They have scheduled a meeting to meet with the team where the there's the Dana Altman, Arkansas situation. I don't know if you remember that one where he goes to the podium and it's legendary. He gives the entire opening press conference and then leaves the next day for Oregon after accepting the job. This one's different. He sets up a meeting with the team. Think about it. You're Kalani Sitake. You're his wife. You're his kids. You're writing out in your head what you're going to say to Chase Roberts and Will Ferrin and Isaiah Glasgow and LJ Martin, thinking, man, how do I, 9 years here, I really want to encapsulate it. I don't want these kids who are going into the Big 12 championship.
Before the biggest game in the programs in 40-some years.
Absolutely.
Holiday Bowl in 84.
And the meeting's on the books. Like, the meeting's set. It's in the team group me. Everyone be here at this time. And what I love about this is Jason McGowan, the CEO of Crumble Cookies. He tweets out, this is just the most Batman. If nobody else is going to do it, I guess it's me. He tweets out, some people are not replaceable. Sounds like it's time for me to get off the sidelines and get to work. And within 30 minutes, and maybe it's just dumb luck and great timing of that tweet within 30 minutes. Hey guys, just kidding. No team meeting. Enjoy your afternoon. Go get some Chipotle. I mean, this is as crazy as it gets, given that the Kiffin situation was weeks on end of reporting back and forth. This was 7 quality hours of no one really knowing what was going to happen. And then I've had multiple people call me this morning and say that as of noon Eastern time, Tuesday, December 2nd, that coming down the pipeline here soon will be the official extension for Kalani that actually, because he signed one last year.
Yeah.
He already signed one. He inked one. And then I think this coaching carousel taught the top coaches in the country, Eli Drinkowitz to Clark Lee to now Kalani Sitake, hey, if your school values you, there's a number on that for NIL. There's a number on that for staff. And if they don't, there's a number somebody else is going to give you. So the way that this carousel went, Kalani saw that and said, hey, Jay Hill's got to get paid. A-Rod's got to get paid. Fezzi's got to get paid. And now those guys are about to get paid.
So is there any, I don't want to use disdain, but maybe resentment from Kalani towards the university or whoever the powers that be that, hey, because you're showing a ton of, I know there's more guys and more coaches, but man, the cash flow towards the basketball program has been out of sight, right? Like, is he saying, I would like to tap into some of that myself so I can continue for this program to not only sustain, but to get better so we don't have to be in a situation where if we don't win the Big 12 championship at 11-1, we still may not get in, or 11-2, whatever.
So this is the classic story, and I have a respect and appreciation for both Kalani Sitake and Brian Santiago. But this is a classic story of new AD steps in, and there are going to be growing pains. I mentioned the phrase friction points, and that's what it feels like here with Kalani and Santiago, where they're trying to figure out. Brian came in, and really the first thing he did while Tom Holmoe was still kind of there was bring Kevin Young, the NBA's top assistant, a future NBA head coach, and now one of the most prolific college basketball coaches as far as developing players for the pros. He brings him in and gives him the Brink truck. The Rob Wright situation over the course of the summer. You talk about how much money is being pumped through the basketball program and the donors that are in the basketball program. Kalani's simply saying, and he didn't say it to me, but these are multiple people now have confirmed that he used that as a leverage of, look, I see what the donors are doing for them. I see what you're doing for them. I know Kevin Young is your guy. I know you didn't hire me 9 years ago, but respectfully, what can we do to get to a place where it's even, where it's fair, where it makes sense? Because Brian Santiago, for all intents and purposes, he is a BYU guy, but he's also a big basketball guy. And Pete, you're a basketball guy, right? If you're the new AD somewhere, your first thought is, all right, how's our basketball program? What's our basketball program look like? That's Santiago. So I don't fault him for that whatsoever. But at some level, when the football team is in the Big 12 championship, when they won 11 games last year, now 11 this year in the regular season, the basketball guy or not, that turns the lights on at the baseball stadium. But that's the revenue that you need to stay alive. And so Santiago, I think, realized with the help of these donors late that it was time to press the red button and go all in on Sitake. And I should also mention, it couldn't be done by just Santiago. This wasn't a situation where they can meet in that room and Sitake says, here's my number. Santiago says, yes, we can do that with the athletic budget right now. Here you go. He's a businessman through and through. He reminds me in ways of Brett Yormark, where at times you'll think, hey, is that guy a little prickly? But I don't know if I describe Santiago as prickly as much as just a businessman. That's what he is focused on. And so what it did take was leaders of the church. This is the flagship university of the church. Leaders at the university's donors, these big, powerful alumni to come in the room with him and say, here's the cash. Does it work? Kalani says yes.
Great stuff, by the way. Another thing for you on this that you have touched on Locked On 12, Big 12, was there some feeling from Sitake like, hey, if I don't win the championship in my conference after almost running the table, I'm not going to get into the college football playoff. Like, do I have to take this show on the road to compete in the Big 10, right? Where I can punch my ticket if I have a season like this. Was there any thought process like that? Like, maybe I need to go somewhere else to reach the summit.
That's the one thing I haven't heard from any sourcing. That's the one thing they have not said that he got to the table and looked at Santiago or the donors and said, look, love the money, but if we can be 11-1 in a Power 4 conference and still not go to the playoff, I want to go win a championship. Because 11-1 Penn State is number 3 in the country right now. And he knows that, and I know that. And so that is not Sitake directly saying that to the university or saying that to sources, but I know this. He's a human being. I've shook the guy's hand. Like, he's sentient. In the back of your brain, when you're the head coach of an 11-1 team, and you're being held out of the college football playoff, if you're Mike Norvell at Florida State, you know you're being cheated at some level, and you understand that where the grass could be greener, you would not be cheated. It's at the very least a thought that I would have as a human being of, yeah, my ultimate motive here is to get Jay Hill paid. My ultimate motive is to make sure that Bear Bachmeyer stays in-house next season. At the same time, I do understand if I went to Penn State and went 11-1, that's a national championship team. I can build that. I can grow that there at a much more successful rate with that win percentage if our win percentage stays the same. So while that was never a conversation that I was told happened at the table, I do think it's got to be in the back of any human being's mind, because at a very gross level, the College Football Playoff Committee has slighted the Big 12, has slighted BYU. And if you're telling me I have to go unblemished, I have to go perfect every year to make the college football playoff, I don't know if I want to sign up for that, especially if the money doesn't make sense.
What about the assistants, Drake? You mentioned Jay Hill and Aaron Roderick. Like, getting them paid is obviously so important, because I am surprised that we haven't heard their names kicked around with other jobs. I mean, is there potential for that this offseason? Or I guess that's something that probably would have already bubbled up. I haven't heard anything. Have you?
Yeah, this should be a coaching search. I thought it would be a coaching search that brings Jay Hill to the forefront. There were conflicting reports of Jay Hill's going to Happy Valley with him, or Aaron Roderick's getting on the plane, or, hey, Jay Hill's the next head coach. And there is, I think, I won't liken it entirely to Jerry Kill, but stay with me here a bit. Jerry Kill could have been one of the great coaches. I believe that in college football. He could have been, but his health has gotten in the way every single step. He's a mastermind and just has never gotten a fair shake with his health.
I mean, this goes back to 2010 at Minnesota. I mean, he was right there at the jumping off point, and he just couldn't. His health was always, like you said, an issue.
And in talking to Coach Gary Patterson, he has been one of the main catalysts with Clark Lee on that staff at Vanderbilt to look around the room and say he's the wise sage that helps them win these games in the SEC. That's what you get with Jay Hill. And I don't think his health is doing him any favors right now. You remember last year, he had a heart attack right before the season started and was still coaching games within a week. There are pieces of this with Jay Hill that would hold him back as a head coach from a health standpoint. And look, maybe you take a shot at it. He goes 3 good years, 5 good years, and nothing happens. And that's awesome. I do think it's in the back of the mind of a lot of people when it comes to a coaching search and making a hire, as it would be for a Jerry Kill. So that's what may be holding back Jay Hill. If I'm a big-time program, I take a shot on him before I do some of these names we've heard in the SEC. I take a shot on him to be my head coach. If I'm BYU, I think they would have been more than confident if it just didn't make sense and Kalani had to go to bring Jay Hill into that chair. Aaron Roderick feels kind of like this Jeff Grimes character of maybe once every 2 or 3 years, you float him out for a Utah State, or you float him out for a UTEP, you float him out for South Alabama, but he's your perennial offensive coordinator. He's the guy that will man that chair, and that seems like it's what he wants to do. His path may be through a smaller, like a Weber State or a smaller Utah school to get to the ranks of a Power 4 head coach. And then outside of that, I think Kelly Papinga could be a guy who in the future is a head coach. Fezzi Sitake could be a guy. TJ Woods could be a guy who are future head coaches. I don't see them in that role right now. I think they are happy at BYU, especially as the money gets better.
Couple more for you, and I'll let you go. You were all over this, and still are, on this situation that at this point, until we see something, but your reporting is lights out, remains fluid, but I would look forward to reading about that agreement coming up here in a little bit. What's the craziest thing you've heard throughout the course of the last 48 hours with all of this Kalani Sitake to Penn State ? Talk.
Yeah, I think the craziest thing that I've heard is that there was a handshake deal, that they were fully ready to do this, and verbally Kalani had confirmed that my intent is to go to Penn State. And I think that was before BYU had caught full wind of it and decided to take all the donors and go out in full force and say, okay, you have won enough games here at BYU. You are the second coming of Lavelle Edwards. Here's the blank check. What does it look like for you? Before that was given, I do think that Kalani was at a point saying, hey, the grass might just be greener. This is the time, if there ever is a time, a la Scott Drew and Kentucky conversation. That's the weirdest part. I also this is a good lesson for anyone who is in sports betting, anyone who is in stock brokerage, anybody who follows the market, any of that. Kalshi, this is a real thing. It is So I sat down with Gary Patterson probably 2 months ago when Oklahoma State fired Mike Gundy. And I said, Coach, FanDuel's got you as the number 10 candidate to be the next head coach at Oklahoma State. You going to take it? And he couldn't stop giggling. He's never talked to Oklahoma State about the job. He doesn't. He loves Mike Gundy. He wouldn't do this to Gundy. There's no possibility of Gary Patterson being the head coach at Oklahoma State. So I had some insider trading there. Didn't put any money on it. And that's where the Vegas can throw things against the wall until things really begin to stick. This Kalshi deal, if I have insider information, I am going and I am buying stock. I am buying shares of Kalani Sitake to Penn State. The more you see something on Kalshi rise and rise and rise, you see it in elections as well. They really do everything. The more you see it rise, the more you have to believe this isn't just some bum from middle of nowhere, Alabama, putting $100 on, maybe this will happen in college baseball. No, these are calculated people who have inside interest in the situations, who are buying shares of something to happen and controlling how that market looks in real time, watching how they're controlling the shares and how the market looks. That's dangerous. And anytime you see that smoke, it's going to point to fire, just like it did here. We all like, oh, he's number one for Kalshi. Yeah. When I see that, I see, oh, he's number one for people who are playing effective sports stock. We need to put some focus into this. And obviously it was correct.
Wow, that's amazing stuff. All right, when you look at BYU and their game against Texas Tech coming up on Saturday, how does this, if at all, affect what will play out on the field in Arlington?
I think the best way to do this is when practice happens today. They should have their last really strong practice, go through a couple walkthroughs specifically tomorrow before they travel. I think Kalani's the last one to walk into the room. I think you bring everybody into the film room. You do hold that quasi-team meeting at 4 p.m. at 5 p.m. And you let Jay Hill walk in, Aaron Roderick head down, and then here comes Kalani with he's got the flowers all over him. He comes in there pumping his chest and fist pumping because this is going to be a win. I was told that players were involved in him staying. They were the ones reaching out and trying to campaign. He needs to create a scene in that room. And he's not that kind of guy, but you see him dance before the games. Every now and then he'll give you a shade of the true fire that he has as a football coach. He needs to walk in that room and immediately set the tone. I don't even need to talk about this. I just got you paid. I got us paid. I got we paid. We're going to win the Big 12 championship. I'm the head coach at BYU. If that's the message that's sent today, if that's the message in that room, I mean, now we're really talking a ball game. Like Joey McGuire is maybe the best motivator in the Big 12, but it's tough to recreate this moment in the aggregate. This could be a great momentum shift for BYU. I'm very excited for the game on Saturday. With him leaving, it would have been a bloodbath, absolute bloodbath, because this isn't used car salesman Lane Kiffin left. I want to win the championship. In spite of him, this is my leader, my religious leader, my father figure is gone. I'm dejected. With him staying when you thought for 6 hours he was leaving. I think BYU can find an edge in that.
What is I got to follow up on this one thing. What were you hearing about players reaching out to him? Like how passionate were they? What was some of the messaging?
Yeah, it happened fast. That was the number one thing that was given to me, was that when the players caught wind of this, it was through social media. And then when you see, so again, you got to put yourself in the human form for LJ Martin, for Chase Roberts, for Parker Kingston, that you're hearing murmurs on social media that your coach is leaving. And then you get that message, team meeting, this hall, this time. That's when it goes into campaign mode. And so you understand now there's a time set on it. Now it's, just spitballing. It's 2 p.m. meetings at 5. I've got 3 hours.
It's like an action movie, dude.
Oh yeah. To do everything in my power. Like, do I go to his house? Do I go to his kid's daycare? Do I where do I go to find him? So it happened quickly, and that's where the team leader stepped up and campaigned hard, saying, hey, we want to do whatever we can to win a championship with you. Original timeline was supposed to be Sitake announcing this after the Big 12 championship game, really win or lose. That seems to be the theme of this offseason is whenever you accept the job, you're out at your current place, no matter where that team sits in the college football playoff. And so the fact that he's, by all intents and purposes, at this point in time, not leaving is a great win for BYU. And I think those players did have a pretty big hand in that.
I'm very proud that I bought stock in Drake Toll ruling the sports media landscape years ago. And it's paying off. It's paying major dividends, dude. What's coming up on Locked On Big 12 this week?
What's not? At this point, I've ruled out nothing. Dave Aranda could be the Queen of England in 48 hours, and it'd be less shocking than the crumble cookies guy saving Kalani Sitake at BYU. So it's a lot of Big 12 championship preview stuff. Texas Tech and BYU is going to be an electric game. I think the ball bounces a couple different ways. Pete, here's a stat for you. Ready for this? Texas Tech,
please.
149 rushing yards. 149 rushing yards in that game when the first time these two teams squared off. That's on 43 carries. 76 of those yards came on 2 carries. That means 41 rushing yards, 41 carries on half those rushing yards. Like they a couple explosive plays off the board here. We got a ball game. No muff punt, no fumble.
That's what I always said. That was so crazy, that muff punt early on. That will not happen again. You can't give the ball away 3 times to a team like Texas Tech and expect to even be in the game late. So I think if they take care of the football and, like you said, eliminate the explosives, we got a ball game. I can't wait, dude.
Yeah, 5 field goals too. Tech struggled to score in the red zone. Like BYU's defense is good, Pete. I think this game is going to be a lot closer than even Vegas is predicting.
Drake Toll, Locked On Big 12, and many more things and more high-profile stuff to come. We'll wait on that. Drake, you're the best, dude. So
Always
appreciate
fun.
You, man.
Always fun, Pete. We'll catch you later.
All right, buddy. There he is, Drake Toll, man, taking us down the stretch here on a very, very busy Tuesday. Let's go to Scotty Swingler now before we wrap this up. I need reaction. We have been so busy today. I haven't forced Scotty to get up and open up his microphone. In a studio that is now slowly becoming a sauna. Not sure how I feel about that, but, they want us to go Ben Johnson and take our shirts off. It ain't happening.
It is too hot in this room.
It is pretty hot, isn't it?
We need someone to bring in some ice cubes.
It's like, dude, it's the first cold day around here.
Well, it was brilliant, right? All summer long, it's brutally hot outside, and it felt pretty nice in here.
Yeah.
And then we finally get some beautiful weather outside. It was in the 30s this morning. I was practically running wind sprints around my yard. I was so happy. And I get into this room to work all day.
Oh, yeah.
Sauna is a good word. I'm dizzy. It's so hot in here. But we're going to make it, Pete. We're going to make it.
What did you pull from today's conversations? I mean, Gary Danielson was amazing. Of course, Drake was unbelievable. What were some of the things that jumped out to you as far as college football and where we are with this whole thing, all this coaching crap right now?
It's a very broad question, Pete. What jumped out to me? I think from both of their comments, this idea that we are not yet settled into a product. College football has been wildly metamorphic for about a decade. Longer than that. I mean, conference realignment really started just about 20 years ago now, 15, 20 years ago now. But from Gary talking about the playoff needing to move, we've been talking for a couple weeks with the Kiffin story, this Kalani story about like the calendar needing to adjust in order for coaches to interview for jobs without leaving a team in the middle of a playoff run, right? Even Drake's comments about the Big 12 and the idea that, this BYU team, if they don't win Saturday, their only loss is to a top 5 team twice, and they're going to miss the playoff. Like that's kind of unbelievable. And I think combo that with Gary's observation that like, what's the SEC going to do? Allow a commissioner to come try to level the playing field and balance the scales? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So college football, I think fans are starting to get tired of the shifting landscape constantly, but the fact is it's still, outside of the NFL, the most consumed product in America. It is, and people love it, and people love the game despite the crazy roster turnover now, coaches, leaving during championship week. Like,
it's not slowing anybody down. It really isn't.
Yeah. And it's just a lot. And you just wonder where I think I keep hoping there's like a settling point. Like, okay, we're just going to land right here, and that's college football.
Yeah.
And I don't know that that's going to happen for a long time.
we're going to dive deeper into the Big 12 championship game tomorrow.
Yeah.
And there was one more thing I wanted to mention to you. To what you said, I believe that there's so much money going every which way, and Gary Danielson talked a little bit about that, and we have too, that I believe the government will have to eventually get involved, because I don't see the college football being like, yeah, you know what, you're right, we should get some structure here. Not when everybody's getting paid like they are. And I don't know enough about government and all that stuff as to how that happens, but I think that is what would institute some kind of change. But until then, I think Gary was wise words for all of us. Like, enjoy the ride, man, and don't be the person that stands in the way of change, because you'll get left behind, whether you're an institution or a fan.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And I think, by the way, to bring the Waco kid perspective in here, I think that's what's so scary for some Baylor fans about the timing of kind of this football program's decline. Is this is not the time you want your program to be an outsider.
Yeah.
If, God forbid, for some reason in the next 2 years, we swoop towards this 50, 60 team super league instead of conferences,
Dude, you don't want to get relegated.
No, you want to be in that, whatever that next phase is. You want to be a program that has to be in it. And unfortunately, for Big 12 schools, that means you probably want to be in the top half of the Big 12. You want to be, one of those kind of prestige programs. And BYU right now is, by the way. It's going to be a great game Saturday, Pete.
That's a great point, dude, about the, you want to be competing right now at the highest level if you're a football program, because things are going to, and this is without any kind of over or stepping in by the government, like things are headed in a certain direction regardless, and you've got to be ready to evolve with that. All right, we'll be back tomorrow. We cannot wait. So grateful that we got a chance to talk with Gary Danielson and Drake Toll. I mean, that is, if you want a microcosm of like where this industry has been a home run for so long, look at somebody like Gary. And if you want to see where this industry is going to continue to hit the long ball, look at somebody like Drake Toll, dude. It really is. It's a great deal, and it's so fun to be a part of this. I got to do a better job with that's from LA, Los Angeles activities. That's my World Is Yours blimp. Like the movie with Tony Montana, Scarface. And there was another thing I wanted to tell you guys. So much going on. Gosh. We'll bring it up tomorrow. But yeah, Liz is here. Thank you so much, Liz, for just being here and just shining bright. There you go. She blew us a kiss. Oh, got us. And Chris Visser, all the hugs and kisses to you in Orlando. Thank you so much for getting us squared away with Gary and for making it all happen today. The Pete Sousa Show will be back tomorrow. We're presented by Slovacics. Adios.
It's the Pete Sousa Show. Sports.
We definitely love our relationship and love Extraco. It's been an amazing experience.
They made the PPP process easier. They were reaching out to me saying, what can I do to help you? That made a huge difference, because my stress level when we shut down to afterwards was night and day.
Our experience with Extraco has been phenomenal since the very beginning, so we love Extraco.
Show. Sports.
Nobody tells our stories better than our clients.
The difference is stark. I was rear-ended at 70 miles an hour. I was injured, had a concussion. The insurance company, they delayed. They were playing games from the initial conversation. They weren't going to help me. The biggest thing I learned through this is that you can't go through this alone. I called Daniel Stark. They were going to help me, and everything was going to be all right. Daniel Stark got me 10 times the insurance company offered.
The difference is stark.
Show. Sports.
Our professionals are not only experts in managing urgent concerns, but also in providing top-notch preventative health care. We're proud to connect pet owners to a vast network of licensed veterinary professionals, ready to address any immediate concerns. Book your first appointment today.
Nalgene Outdoor has been your trusted companion, fueling adventures and helping protect the planet. We're committed to reducing waste, improving access to clean water, and providing simple, safe, and sustainable products for you and your family. NALGENE.com. We are Rogue Media Sports.